Hello once again and good evening to News at 10 live on TV3 and 3FM 92.7. You can also follow our live stream on facebook.com/TV3GH and on 3news.com. Let's start with the summary of the day's major news stories. The five-member committee impaneled by the Chief Justice Sophia Cote to investigate the abuse of power and corruption scandal against the Electoral Commission have met their petitioners and respondents. In the first sitting of the committee, Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Charlotte Osei, is said to have written to the President demanding a copy of the original petition filed against her. And President Akufo-Addo says selfless leadership and strong policies are key factors in enhancing the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Speaking at a high-level roundtable on mobilizing support and accelerating implementation of the SDGs, the President encouraged Africa to use the SDGs to change the narrative of the continent. The Chief Executive Officer of the Bui Power Authority, Fred Owari, has indicated plans are underway to merge the Bui Power Authority with the Volta River Authority, VRA. Speaking at an encounter with the media, he said a committee has been formed to look into the merger and will begin sitting tomorrow. And 5 female students of a St. Martin's Senior High School have been detained by the medical doctor at the Nsawam Government Hospital, Dr. Kofi Ablo. This is to enable the hospital cross-examine the 5 who were sent to the hospital after they collapsed. Meanwhile, Assistant Headmaster of the school, John Atta Kofi Okpante, explained a counseling session for students is underway. And elsewhere, Ivory Coast is to pay its soldiers 15 million CFA franc, that's the equivalent of $25,500 US each, to voluntarily leave the large army. The government is hoping to retire 4,400 troops, almost a fifth of its reported 25,000 strong army by 2020. 1,000 of those will voluntarily retire at the end of the year. And a man detonated a pipe bomb strapped to his chest near the Port Authority bus terminal in New York City Monday, injuring himself and 3 others in an incident that Mayor Bill de Blasio called an attempted terrorist attack. New York Police Commissioner James O'Neill identified the suspect as 27-year-old Akaid Uta, who was being treated for burns and wounds in a nearby hospital under police custody. Those are our major news highlights, and remember you can listen to us live on 3FM 92.7 as well as follow our live stream on Facebook and on 3news.com. To our very first story, the 5-member committee impaneled by the Chief Justice Sophia Cote to investigate the abuse of power and corruption scandal against the Electoral Commission have met the petitioners and respondents. In the first sitting of the committee, Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Charlotte Osei, is said to have written to the President demanding a copy of the original petition filed against her. The five-member committee is chaired by Supreme Court Judge Justice Benin, two Courts of Appeal judges, as well as two other members nominated by the Council of State. The request for the original copy of the petition from the presidency by the chair of the commission, Electoral Commission, is said to have been necessitated by failure of the Chief Justice to respond. This, she said, is a breach of her constitutional and legal rights, which she finds inappropriate. Right, let's get on to Skype now and speak with private legal practitioner, lawyer Martin Pebu, who is a law lecturer at the Central University here in Accra. Good evening, sir. Thank you. We're grateful that you could join us. So let's look at the reasons for petitioning the president to help the EC chair get a copy of the petition filed against her. In the first place, she says that the Chief Justice was unable to respond to this request of hers. Was it appropriate for the Chief Justice not to respond to a request to supply Mrs. Osei with the petition filed against her?
I should say that indeed it would be extraordinary that Mrs. Osei would not be given a copy of the petition. That is not our law at all. Fundamentally, when a person is sued, that person has a right to receive a copy of the allegations against him or her. So for me, I would say that I would prefer we hear directly from the Chief Justice's office as to the veracity of this claim.
Right.
Because it's basic. It's basic. If you don't receive a copy of the allegations, you cannot move the case forward.
So it means that it's in order for Mrs. Osei to demand that she be given the copy under the circumstances, and she's now petitioning the President of the Republic. Is that also normal? I mean, for her to bypass the Chief Justice and go to the President to request a petition which should have originally been supplied her by the justice system?
Yes, what I should say that's also very strange. The request to the president is also strange because, as it were, the president passes on the petition, from the Constitution. As soon as he receives it, 146, he would pass it on, so that's forwarded to the Chief Justice's office. So it means that the proper place to obtain a copy of the petition is the office of the Chief Justice.
So now let's look at the substance of the allegations. Perhaps not the substance, but under the circumstance, the committee is expected to start their sittings, and evidence will be collected. The respondents will be heard, etc., etc. Can you tell me, from the legal standpoint, what the processes will entail? Will it just be interviews and cross-examinations?
That is the bulk of the job, yes. Interviews and cross-examinations, yes, because that is our system for eliciting evidence. That is the way to go about it in order to help the panel to be able to make a determination whether the allegations hold water or not. But apart from that, the panel is also empowered by the Constitution to investigate. So they have investigative powers. So in the event that they are not satisfied with the questions and answers that counsel have asked, they also have powers to investigate as they deem fit. So they would pose questions that would enable them to receive answers that they determine would help in coming to the truth. Yes.
So at this stage, I reckon that everyone will be in the know of who the petitioners really are. I mean, I recall that earlier when the petition against her was filed, there were concerns. She was concerned that these people were faceless. But at this point, I reckon that she may already know who filed the petition against her.
I don't think it's that straight. She may not know because right now, to the extent that she's claiming that she has not received a copy of the petition, it is possible that she may not know because it is the case that they say at a point they had about 17 petitioners. So she stated that she was given a letter from the Office of the Chief Justice to respond. So it would appear that that letter was a synthesis, or if you want a different word, let's say a summary of the various allegations put together. So to the extent that at a point there were about 17 petitioners, and to the extent that she hasn't received a copy of the petition, but rather got a letter from the Office of the Chief Justice, it's possible for her not to know the petitioners.
So whilst you're here, we'll wrap up our conversation very soon. But I know for lawyers like yourself and students of law, this is a first of its kind where a petition has been filed against the sitting Electoral Commission chair seeking her removal. The grounds for which they're seeking to remove her, well, some may say are not very strong, but the Chief Justice has found a prima facie case for which this committee has been constituted and the case must go on. Do you predict that it might get to that point where she will be removed?
Well, that's putting me in a very tight corner. Well, as you said, we don't want to go into the merits. So in the circumstances, I'll reserve judgment. Yes, because as soon as you get into this game about predictions, it can get very tricky.
But is there the possibility? I mean, this is a sitting EC chair whose tenure is protected, and that these petitioners are following through the legal processes to have her removed. There is the possibility she could be removed, right?
Oh, now definitely. To the extent that there is a case, you can never tell. It could go either way.
Right. Lawyer Martin People, we're grateful for your time, though. Thank you very much for joining us for this conversation. Lawyer Martin People is a private legal practitioner, and you heard his views there. There is the possibility that Mrs. Osei could be removed, but is ultra-wise. It's not in his place to state that indeed there will be a judgment to remove her. I'm Stephen Enti, and you're still watching news at 10. You can also hear us on 3FM 92.7. We have more news for you. Please don't go away. Welcome back. Now, the police has beefed up security in Najong, number 1, a community in the Bunkurugu Nyonyo district. This is after some unidentified gunmen numbering about 8 on 4 motorbikes attacked traders at the market and fired indiscriminately into them. 4 people were killed, with 8 others injured, including 2 women, on Sunday, December 10. The CRD homicide unit from the headquarters in Accra is helping to investigate the matter. Let's quickly get on to Skype now. Adam Bona is a security analyst joining us on the telephone lines on Skype. I beg your pardon. Good evening, sir. Thank you extremely for your time. So, another worrying situation where criminals, I would call them, fire indiscriminately into places where market women are gathered. This is one too many, wouldn't you say?
Sure. Thank you very much. Good evening to your cherished viewers. Just like you said, one too many. The truth is that we've had too many of these incidents gone probably. Those who perpetrated most of these crimes are usually not brought to book. And so usually what you would realize is that you would have every other day, there would be some gun violence somewhere. And one would have thought that after the arrest and the seizure of these arms and ammunition that were about entering the same, enclave, the police would have increased their surveillance around the area. But unfortunately, it won't be too fair if one has to blame the police, in the sense that they are usually outnumbered when it comes to having the men on the ground to do the kind of work we expect them to do. And also, we live with, usually, in a community like that, most of these people live amongst, they live amongst us. And so the one would say, why are we harboring them? Why are we not reporting the authorities? And yeah, I want to say that the conflict, the recent, violence that has erupted around the area has to do with, what do you call it, this trying to create another region, within the northern region of a sort. And so everybody is trying to say, well, we would want it in our locality. And so definitely there is bound to be conflict here and there, yeah.
I know at the base of this is the challenge or problem of proliferation of small arms, especially in the Sahel region. To what extent can this challenge be nipped in the bud before it becomes a little more problematic than it is now?
It is already very, very problematic. You realize that after the conflict in Libya, we've had, and also I'm sure you are aware that most of the illegal small arms found in the West Coast, in West Africa, are actually in Nigeria. About 70% of them are found in Nigeria. And the Sahel region is becoming notorious for, what do you call it, a lot of people bringing in arms into a country like ours. And also, the question you asked, is it not becoming too problematic? One would say, even in our own backyard, you realize just recently, we had a musician who probably, it's illegal for, those who are listening or watching us, it's illegal to discharge a firearm without, lawful permit from the Inspector General of Police. But we had a musician who fired a number of gunshots, and posted that on social media. I don't want to mention names. And up to today, we haven't heard of the police swooping in on the person and arresting the person. And so what it means is that people are becoming emboldened. People are now finding ways and means to purchase most of these guns that are coming from that area. And so one would say that the economic, the sub-regional groupings, AU, this issue about illegal arms within probably Africa, within the sub-region, it's something that one country cannot deal with. And so we'll need the collaboration, an effective collaboration between, what do you call it, the sub-regional grouping, the continental grouping, to be able to nip this in the bud. But unfortunately, it's I don't know whether it's going to happen, but our leaders or the leadership of this union, so yeah, groupings are not doing much to be able to get out, this illegal arms from the hands of people. And so
what you're saying is suggestive. What you're saying, Mr. Bona, suggests that it is your view that our security agencies are not on top of the trade of intelligence gathering because they possibly are not doing well. Is that what you're suggesting?
Exactly, because if you realize after the seizure, they were lucky they had a tip-off and they arrested these guys with the 6 pump actions with a lot of ammunition. One would have thought that they would have quickly deployed intelligence officers to this neighborhood to be able to get a lot of intelligence information that they would have used to stop this attack. My condolences to the bereaved families. One would say that this shouldn't happen in the 21st century. 21st century policing demands that intelligence officers should be everywhere. But would you want to blame the police? How much resources have we given them? And so I would say that the country's intelligence setup is next to zero.
But the lead intelligence agency here is the Bureau of National Investigations, and I know for a fact that they're deployed across the country. So is it them who are not doing well, or you think that is a collective responsibility and a collective lapse, I beg your pardon, of all the security agencies?
Yes, it is a collective lapse, just like you did mention. There is an issue of trust when it comes with, citizens who want to volunteer information that has to do with someone who's about committing a crime. Usually, you will have those who commit, a lot of these heinous crimes, largely also in bed with some of this. And so, whistleblowers who might go to a police station or BNI, we have BNI offices, officers all over the country. And so the question you ask, what are they doing? The truth is that sometimes people become too afraid to volunteer information that would help in arresting these people. And security, safety is a shared responsibility. But the truth is that if, as an ordinary citizen, you volunteer information, and the next thing is you become, a victim yourself because you volunteered information and the bad guys are going to hit you. Next time, you will not dare volunteer information. And so one would say that we need to begin to reorient the way our security couples are trained. Most of them are not aware of why they were put in the what they are supposed to be doing, and usually until we put our house together as a nation, as a continent, as a regional part of the sub-regional grouping. It's going to be very difficult for us to be able to deal with this issue of crime, security, safety, and and all that.
Right, Mr. Bona. Finally, before you go, talking about sub-regional cooperation, there is what appears to be a looming crisis involving the Cote d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast. I'm sure you may have followed in the news. Reuters is reporting that Cote d'Ivoire is paying each soldier $26,000 equivalent, so they might voluntarily leave. They're expecting that 1,000 of the soldiers will leave before the close of this year, and up to 2020, they're hoping to downsize up to about 4,000. That's a fifth of the 25,000 troop army that they have. Do you get the feeling that this might escalate to neighboring ECOWAS countries and will have security implications for the wider African region?
Yes, thank you very much. And once again, good evening to your cherished viewers. I'm sure you are aware Macron, the president of, what's his name, France, he was here recently. He was in the sub-region, and one of the reasons why he came, from a close source in the Ivorian capital, one of the reasons why he came was on this same issue, to see to it that, I'm sure you are aware, somewhere this year, we've had a couple of mutiny here and there. We've had, the soldiers, sporadic shootings here and there, and some of it even traveled for a day, 2, 3, 4. The truth is that you are talking about $26,000. That's a lot of money that is given to these soldiers, and from now till the next 4 years, about 4,000 of them are going to be let go. The policy has already been signed and actioned, and the money is going to be available. But the truth is that what role is a regional grouping leaders playing in ensuring that these people who are going to be retrenched, or these people who are going to be discharged, are going to be reintegrated to our society, into the West African society. Remember, these guys are so close to us, and one would say that, looking at how the ICLOS ruling went, and so I would have wished that the sub-regional grouping would have been actively involved in this whole issue about, discharging this 4,000 or so military officers within the next 4 years. But unfortunately, it has to do with Big Brother from France coming to West Africa and calling the West African leaders together and, getting Alassane Ouattara in a particular room and telling them that, listen, your guys are going to be creating problems for you, forgetting that Ivory Coast is not an island on its own. Ivory Coast belongs to the sub-regional grouping, and one would have wished that it should have been a decision backed by ECOWAS. But unfortunately, it is a decision that the Ivorians have taken, backed by France. And when they come in from wherever they are to come and say, do this and do that, and when trouble begins to brew, they run fast and leave us to deal with our own trouble. So I would have wished that our leaders would
have been more involved in the decision. Adam Bona, we're grateful for your time. I'm extremely grateful. Adam Bona is a security expert. And let's wrap up now. I have not directed anybody or staff of ECG to reactivate cards for customers in the districts. Reports of such incidents to my office, and those found culpable will face possible dismissal. Well, those were the words of the Managing Director of the Electricity Company of Ghana, Engineer Samuel Boakye, issuing a stern warning there.
The Managing Director, Engineer Samuel Boakye, was addressing a news conference in Accra. It was to explain the work the Electricity Company of Ghana had done since its built operating transfer system failed. So far, it has cleared 41,490 customers out of the 300,000 customers on its system. Those affected were located around Kaneshie, Dansoman, Achimota, and Kolebu. Currently, most of those affected have been cleared, and the ECG says it is hoping it will complete the exercise by the close of this week. However, some customers and media reports suggest that the ECG officials are moving through the districts to reactivate cars for them. But the Managing Director of ECG, Engineer Samuel Boakye, warned those officials to desist from that.
Fix lights for anybody, any customer who has this challenge. ECG has not authorized anybody to do that. If any such has come to your attention, we'll be glad to receive the reports and the details so that we act swiftly on it.
Of major concern to Ghanaians now, whether the ECG would compensate customers affected by the problem. But the Managing Director said customers who present their complaints would be considered. He again indicated that it would identify the cause of the problem to ECG after its evaluation the next few weeks.
Indicated that we will definitely assess the situation, whatever has happened, and do a comprehensive, review and cost of, what has happened.
Right, Engineer Boakye issuing a stern warning. I am Stephen Enti, and that's where we wrap up with the news at 10. Thank you for making time. There is more news at 3news.com, and on behalf of the crew here, good night.